Let's see. Let's go over to 2. Come, let us explore the 25th passage of the Great Garuda in Flight, a Dzogchen classic. I'm a little out of it. I'm fatigued, but at least I'm here, unlike last night and the night before. So I'm going to tap button 4. Button 14. Haha. Okay, together as a team, let us relaxingly recite the 25th passage of the Great Garuda in Flight, composed oh so many centuries ago by Vajra, the great Buddhist. What's the word I'm looking for? Not revisionist. Oh, it'll come to me later and then I'll tell you. Let's continue. Together. Again. Even though the 6 classes of being... Take 2. Again. Even though the 6 classes of beings do appear, one should recognize this as the original path. Those endowed with compassion who pursue desires may also pursue perfect purity by any means whatsoever. So there's a lot of information here. We're going to begin, as usual, with the foundation. Tapping button 9. Okay. I'm super out of it. Please bear with me. If my brain was a V8, I'd be on 2 cylinders right now. But hey, at least I'm here. So this is important. Check this out. In our underbrain, the cellar of our cerebellum, if you will, there are 2 circuits. The one is a dopamine circuit. It rewards for competition, and it is ideal for the occasional survival circumstance. The second is the oxytocin circuit, and it is ideal for cooperation. If we make competition our default mode and relegate cooperation for an occasional thing, we're going to have the type of life outlined by Mr. Hobb. We're going to be petty, short, brutal, and nasty lives. However, if cooperation is our go-to mode, and we relegate competition to the occasional moments of survival. You know, a bear's wandered into camp and you have to protect the youngins. Okay, that's not 24/7. That's once in a while. So our life is going to be as fulfilling and as happy as it is defined by compassion and cooperation. The Buddha's path is about relying on the portions of our brain that help us to live that way automatically, effortlessly, easily. So, having said that, we're going to start with what not to do, and then we're going to explore what to do as a solution. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. That there are rightists and leftists. There are people who are defined by religious or irreligious patriarchy. What do we mean by patriarchy? Patriarchy is not determined by the presence of a penis. Patriarchy is determined by an attitude, a worldview. Chauvinism is just one of many symptoms of patriarchy. The type of patriarchy described by Lao Tzu so many centuries ago. A true rightist is rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Their opposite, a leftist, a minion of spiritual matriarchy, is flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. These things are not defined by our literal gonads, although in some literature it could be metaphorically correlated with those things. It's important to realize. So those who are rigid and fearful and superstitious and controlling and elitist will, often with the best of intentions, implore their students to excessively focus and excessively analyze. Doing so exhausts the prefrontal cortex to the point that we present with symptoms of depression. We trigger our amygdala, the seat of the anxiety and aggression that are antithetical to the peace, the love that we want to define us, to the peace and love that we have, that have evolved to define us. If we are defined by anxiety and aggression and we feel yucky, it's not because we believe that's wrong. We feel yucky because that yuckiness is a symptom of a feedback loop reminding us that we're going the wrong way. In our inner ears, we have 3 sets of tubes filled with fluid and little hairs, and they help us to experience balance. Those don't work well, we fall down, we get sick. It's unsustainable. Similarly, our ability to perceive to experience feeling out of sorts when anxiety and aggression become our defaults are not a problem. They're the early warning system, the idiot light on the dashboard of our life, if you will. With every breath, we have a choice. Do we actively compete against our autonomic nervous system, or do we passively cooperate with it? When we choose the second, our amygdala is calmed, and our anterior cingulate gyrus is gently stimulated, which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy, the root, or that which, what's the good phrase here? Transmutes dread into compassion and desire into love. Pretty nifty. So now that we understand the benefits of passively cooperating with our autonomic nervous system, let us answer the $64,000 question, how do we do that deal? Here it is. What if mindfulness or sati was as simple as noticing? Every time we inhale, whether we feel that inhalation in our nostrils, in our chest, or in our belly, every time we inhale, the sympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord, has evolved to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Oopsie, where's the cursor? Meditation, or samadhi, is as simple as relaxing. Every time we exhale, whether we feel our exhalation in our nostrils, in our chest, or in our belly, every time we exhale, the parasympathetic nervous system, live long and prosper, divided between the lower third and the upper third of our spinal cord, has evolved to help us to notice that, to help us relax, that which we noticed during our previous inhalation to such a degree that fleetingly it feels less stressful, less permanent, and less defining, and figuratively feels as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, feels non-graspable to the hand. So now that we know the mechanism behind the mindfulness and the meditation that calm our amygdala and stimulate our anterior cingulate gyrus, how do we do this deal? Here's how. Each time we feel our body inhaling, and we don't force it. This is the passive path. When we notice our body inhaling, silently and mentally we could recite the demonstrative pronoun this. Each time we feel our body exhaling, silently and mentally we could recite the one-syllable verb ease. Now that we've laid the foundation, let's go back to this evening's lesson text. Again, even though the 6 classes of beings appear, one should recognize this as the original path. So the inference is that the 6 classes of beings are that, and something else that we'll explore in a few minutes is this. The idea of the 6 classes of beings is not the original path, and I'm so glad that that is mentioned. You see, in my early 20s, while living in the San Fernando Valley of Southern California, there was an influx of June bugs in June swarming the porch light of the house me and my roommates were renting. Whenever there is a great luminary, whether philosophical or scientific or artistic, people like June bugs are drawn to them. And typically about 90% are going to be the people who are all about being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. These people are all about prestige and power and fame and wealth. And they will claw and bite and rip and tear to finagle themselves into positions of power. And then once they get there, they typically don't know what to do with the power. In other words, they don't know the teachings. They might give lip service to the teachings, but they don't know the teachings. And within the history of Buddhism or the mythology of Buddhism, the tale is taught of the Buddha's foolish cousin Devadatta, who did just that. He succeeded in dividing the body of nuns and monks, dividing the body, the assembly of lay students, causing division within the patrons, people who financially supported the nuns and the monks. And he wound up with his own nuns and monks and lay students and patrons. But he couldn't keep them, because although he knew how to manipulate, he didn't know the teachings, no less master the teachings. Said all that to say this. When looking at the vast amount of documents that claim to be Buddhist teachings, many of them contradict each other. And you can tie yourself into, you can perform all sorts of mental gymnastics trying to reconcile them, or you could just consider the uncomfortable possibility that not everything that claims to be the teachings of the Buddha is the teaching of the Buddha. And so what is being inferred in this text by Prahevajra is that there is proto-Buddhism and then institutional Buddhism. Big difference. Big difference. So institutional Buddhism, man, it's about being rigid and fearful and coercing each other, coercing ourselves. That's not the path of peace. You cannot frighten yourself into peace. That's far too much. Like making love in the name of virginity. Oh, it's a fun way to spend an afternoon, but it's not going to get you any closer to your stated goal. So, in institutional Buddhism, there's a lot of fear-mongering. You know, things like if you're angry, you'll in your next life, you'll be a hell being. If you're greedy, in your next life, you'll be a hungry ghost. If you prance about the countryside like Homer Simpson, in your next life, you'll be an animal. If you are jealous and competitive, your next life, you'll be a jealous demigod. And if you are prideful and self-centered, you'll begin your next life as a god, but you'll take a terrible rebirth in hell. And so the people who teach that are trying to frighten people, not to be angry, greedy, foolish, jealous, or prideful. But that's not the Buddha's path. By simply practicing, noticing, and relaxing in harmony with our breathing, or let me put it another way, by getting out of our own way and allowing our autonomic nervous system to notice and relax in harmony with our inhalation and exhalation, then whatever pride or greed or confusion or jealousy or pride we notice during our inhalation could feel less permanent, less stressful, less defining, and less solid during each exhalation. Now, of course, during the inhalation, it could start again, and that's fine. But we're safe. It's safe to notice these things. We don't have to guilt ourselves. We don't have to frighten ourselves. We don't have to manipulate ourselves. Notice and relax. Gives birth to peace and compassion and cooperation. It is an inevitability. Well, what then is the original path? Well, to discover that, we're going to have to turn the page. Come on, coordination, don't fail me now. Those endowed with compassion who pursue desires may also pursue perfect purity by any means whatsoever. What does that mean? Well, back to basics. Every time, whatever dread we noticed as we breathe in feels less graspable as we breathe out. This stimulates our anterior cingulate gyrus, the seat of empathy. And not only do we become aware of our own vulnerability to peril, but we become all of a sudden aware of others' vulnerability to peril. And so it becomes contagious. And so our awareness and release turns our selfish dread into a universal dread that is protective, that is caring, that gives a flying fuck, if you will. Contrary to the ravings of people who really don't understand the teachings, we don't have the desire to procreate and drink water when we're thirsty and eat when we're hungry and find warmth when it's cold and find shade when it's hot because we're self-centered and because we have faulty metaphysics. We are wired to do those things by evolution because our ancestors who were not born with those drives did not procreate and pass on their genes or did not live long enough to procreate and pass on those traits. So due to the trenchant, pragmatic nature of evolution, we are the descendants of hedonists who were scared enough to hide or kill animals that wanted to eat us, and who always made sure we had enough water and food and shelter and warmth and mating opportunities. Any rational, pragmatic meditator is going to know that the desire for those things is natural. The question is, do we actively chase them, or are we receptive and let these things flow to us? The more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds could flow from love's spontaneity, not scattered spontaneity, but centered spontaneity. And that's how we're able to meet our needs of our species, gently, sustainably, and elegantly. We evolved to socialize sexually and asexually. That is not a flaw. It's baked into the cake. We evolved to make love recreationally. It's baked in the cake. It's not a flaw. The key to the tantric sex depicted, and I think what I'm going to do is use a different image here just to illustrate my point. So I'm going to hit Insert, Pictures, and Device. Let's go to Pictures and Buddhist Yoga. Let's look for Kuntu Zongpo. Let's look for my favorite, wrong one. Let's see, here we go. Okay, let's try this one and see if it fits. What an amusing turn of phrase. Let's hit wrap text, behind text, and see if it works. Okay, that's not going to fit, so I'm going to reach for a similar image, a cropped version of this image. May 2320. Okay, here we go. And we're going to hit wrap text and behind text. Here we go. All right, so here we see a beautiful couple sporting in tantric union. As they breathe in, they can notice all the physical and emotional pleasure. As they breathe out, they could and relax. All that physical and emotional pleasure could feel less intense, less permanent, and less defining. You could feel, at least fleetingly, as non-graspable as the sky. So the purity comes not from repressing desire, justifying desire, but from noticing and releasing. There will be times when we feel the full spectrum of human emotions, from the glorious to the grotesque. Our job is not to congratulate ourselves when we feel something pleasurable and berate ourselves when we feel something painful. Our job is to notice and relax. That is the Buddha's path of purity. So quick like a bunny. Having concluded our opening lesson, it's time for us to now shift gears. And once again, I apologize for being spacey. I'm super tired. Okay, here we go. It is Qui-Gon Jinn Tuesday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Dzogchen Semde Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus. To spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I could become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to Nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to meditate like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this evening's live stream, let's play with the latest iteration. A very easy meditation practice text, or sadhana, if you're nasty. Copy. Paste. So I'm going to adjust the font for a moment for my friends on the Tube app. So I would like to spend a moment or two reviewing Bengali grace counting. And I would like to do so in 3 phases. Phase 1, repetitions or inhalations. Every time we inhale, we can advance the tip of our right thumb upon the creases and tip of our right fingers. Thusly, 1, I'm going to make sure that everything is on screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6. Having some trouble with my coordination. Okay, so I'm going over to button 4. So everyone gets to see the hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that's how we count 16 repetitions or 16 inhalations. Now let's explore how we can count 4 sets or of those 5 of those 16 inhalations. So on any given finger of our left hand, for instance, on our ring finger, we could count 1 set of 16 inhalations, 2 sets, 3 sets, 4 sets. Now we're going to look at collections. Upon the tip of our left ring finger, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger and thus keep track of our first collection of 4 sets of 16 repetitions. We could slide our finger thusly. We have a second collection of 4 sets of 16 repetitions. And then we can advance that right hand again. And now we have 3 collections of 4 sets of 16 repetitions. This could feel overwhelming and ungainly. That's okay. I've described this, and I've devoted an entire chapter to this in my free meditation manual. When my meditation manual that you can download for free as a PDF. So don't worry. Every time I come, I'll review this, and in time it'll become easier and easier. And here's one thing I'd like to do is I'd like to instead of working with 5 sets of 16 repetitions, instead of working with 4 sets of 16 repetitions, I like to work with 5. And so to count that, for the first set, it's just we work with the collection series, and then we begin advancing the thumb. Anyway, I'm sure in time I'll do a better job of explaining that. But now, let's meditate. Now remember, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist philosophy or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions approximately every 8 minutes or so. Check for questions. I don't see any right now, so let's move forward. Okay, so one moment for my folks in the Tube app while I edit. Okay, here we go. That's lame. Oh, whoops. Did I just do that? I did. I did just do that. Well, don't I feel like Urkel? Okay, let's try that again. Okay, that's looking better. Okay, so how do we effortlessly allow our energy to coalesce at our heart wheel? Simple. All we got to do is rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon the tap of our left middle finger thusly. Everything will take care of itself automatically. Let's count 16 breaths on our right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Let's do that while we rest the great knuckle of the base of our right middle finger upon the left. Palms up in our lap. Well, while chewing gum and riding a unicycle. So that was our first set of 16 breaths. To record our second set, we can rest the tip of our left thumb upon the lowest set of creases of our left middle finger, while resting the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon its tip. All right, here we go. The easiest way to invite our subtle energies to coalesce at the crown of our head is to rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger. You have taken your first steps into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's morning meditation class, as well as group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.